Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk my favorite subject, which is probably real estate. Let me make sure my mic is on. But really, anything economics. So if I waver and talk about other things, just forgive me. But today I'll keep talking about the real estate because I really don't see it having the correction that some of the people online do. There's a lot of negative information. The economy's collapsing. We're in a war. We've got debt going through the roof. All sorts of bad things. Banks collapsing. Happy to explain why and how that's working out and what's going on. New committees being formed that, at least from what I can tell at this point, don't have a whole lot of authority. Just typical committee to talk about economics and a whole lot of scary stuff. But prices in real estate dropped over the past few months, but seem to have caught themselves. The stock market fell pretty good, but seems to be catching itself as the news gets scarier and scarier. You know, not a financial planner, so use the information I provide for entertainment purposes only and reach out to your financial planner for the decisions you make. Just sharing the stuff that I've learned over my life. What I find is when the news doesn't match the price action, that's better information than anything else. Meaning, you own a company and they come out with a quarter of unbelievable earnings and the world is wonderful and we don't see any reason that it wouldn't continue to grow. Maybe even 2 or 3 of those quarters, while the stock price doesn't continue up with it. You have to question why not. Same the other way around. When the news is bad earnings, we don't see a good future, the economy's bad, and the stock isn't going lower, you have to question that as well. Works the same way in real estate. Legitimately, the news is bad. So why are prices not going lower? Right? I think people need to ask that. And the gloom and doomers that disconnect that one piece. Prices don't seem to be going lower. Well, so maybe you need to ignore the noise. Understand the economic data, understand that there's always risk, and be prepared for up or down or whatever. But notice that, yeah, there's all sorts of bad news, and prices seem to be sustaining themselves. It's very interesting to me. And as a trader, not as an investor, my gut reaction when the volume of one side picks up is to take the other end of it because things tend to run their course and then go back to normal. So if you have a surge in sellers, I want to be the buyer in whatever market that is. And then I want to try to be patient through that and wait for that to settle down, and vice versa. If there's a surge of buyers for some reason that I think probably won't be able to sustain itself for a long period of time, same thing. I'd like to be on the other side and be the seller. When a good company comes out with bad news, I'll give an example. I bought Cracker Barrel, which is not really a company that I keep an eye on or watch too often. But they came out with really bad earnings and a future outlook of we think things can get worse. And when I think of Cracker Barrel, it just seems like some boring company that has been around a long time, and people traveling across the country are still likely to stop there, get some lunch, maybe buy. I like those those sticks, those like watermelon sticks and stuff. It's terrible for me. But, you know, people stop and pick something up there. Don't know that I really see that changing unless, yeah, we have some sort of terrible 1920s type of depressionary time. Thing is, I know there's a lag. I get all of that. I really do. But it's hard for me to see today's world turning into a 1920s depression. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen or it can't. Anything can happen. I've learned that over the years. But to be fair, we're doing things are so different. I know markets are markets, really, but the world is different. Everything is different. And I don't see us going back into that type of thing. Maybe we do. We've created a ton of debt. I do worry about the currency risk on all major currencies, which is why I can't figure it out in some ways. I think the dollar likely continues to weaken against other currencies, but to be fair, a lot of those countries have taken on a ton of debt too and are in the same position. So I don't know if it just is what it is and everybody gets used to there's just always this ton of debt that never gets resolved. When I was a kid, they had this little thing going around a building in New York that was showing the country's debt. And you could see how fast it would go up and up and up. And it was kind of scary. And even as a kid, I thought, boy, that's a problem. Well, it's been 40 years of a problem. So that's where it's tough for me to know what'll happen because maybe it's just part of what we live with. And as you get older and understand it, it becomes more scary, but maybe it never causes a real problem. I don't know. And maybe our future generations really will have to pay off those debts and it'll squash the ability for the countries to continue to grow. That's a possible scenario too. But I can't live my day-to-day life constantly thinking the world's going to end. And then back to the real estate side, I constantly say, I think you'd rather be a homeowner than a renter. So, yeah, and the market's the market. So talk to somebody who helps you with your finance if you talk to somebody. Look at what you can actually afford comfortably and accept the market as the market. There's an interesting thing about that. If you're young and you think over your life, you'll be able to earn more money and continue to grow. In some ways, you would want to see housing drop in price. And I don't mean wait for it to drop. Let's say you buy, I'm going to make up because Las Vegas home numbers, a $400,000 home. And housing drops 30%. Well, it dropped 30% for that $800,000 home too. So yeah, you bought your $400,000 home and now it might be worth $280,000. But the $800,000 home fell $240,000 as well. So now it's 560 and probably closer to being in reach of what you could afford. So same scenario, if you're in the position that you can afford that next one, it's more affordable than it was when you bought the first one. And I still say owning a home is a good thing. Maybe you're in the position to rent that first one out when you buy the second one. But try to ignore all the noise of what's going on in the world and move from being a renter to an owner. That's the underlying message.